Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of Agile PMP questions, ideal for preparing for your PMP or your Agile Certified Practitioner exam or any other Agile exam, because the questions are very similar to your other Agile items as well, and it's basically a great way to get an understanding of Agile in general with your teams. For this one, we've got 10 more questions, so a whole bunch, a really great way to prepare. Let's get into the questions. Scrum is a single team framework for managing product development. So we're talking about Scrum here, one of the main aspects of Agile. There are certain events, ceremonies, and roles and responsibilities within a Scrum team. Which of the below is not a role or responsibility in a Scrum team? Okay. And this is quite good as well, because this is just a simple definition. So who's involved in a Scrum team, and we can already see outright. So straight away, we know that we have a product owner who prioritizes the backlog, the development team who actually develop the items and create the features and develop the story cards, and the Scrum Master who facilitates all of our ceremonies and that sort of thing as well. But lastly, our risk manager, even though a risk manager is certainly important, and it's more of a predictive, more of a role in a predictive method or a project lifecycle, that's probably not within an Agile team itself, and certainly not within a Scrum team itself. So for our purposes, let's go with answer D. Answer D. Risk and quality are the responsibility of the whole team in an Agile way of work. Okay, so that's good. So typically a single person is not responsible for it. The product owner ensures the right features are delivered. The development team ensures the code is refactored and streamlined and simplified regularly. And the Scrum Master ensures that the team process is improved over time. And the quality tester ensures that features are free of defects. So all of those aspects cover a lot of the risk that you'll see on a normal project, but everyone works together to work on risk in an Agile project. So that's really good. All right, that was a great one to start with. All right, let's see what we've got next. Agile servant leadership is one of the key foundations to an Agile team, where leadership and team participation and openness are encouraged. Which of the below is not one of the characteristics of a servant leader? Okay, this is going to be good. Promoting self-awareness and helping people grow. That's wonderful. That's what we want in servant leadership. We want to be growing our teams. Listening to others more than speaking yourself. Yes, that's also a good one, because we need to listen and figure out what the blockers are and what the troubles are within our team. Serving those on the team by removing blockers. Well, that's a good carry on from the previous answer. So yes, I love that one as well. Let's see what the last one is. Reporting on low performers to ensure the team is streamlined. So that's not part of Agile servant leadership or servant leadership in general. Basically, we want to be growing our team. So definitely where possible, as long as a person is open to it, we want to be growing them and helping them improve, which ultimately helps our whole team improve as well. So let's go with answer D. Answer D. Agile and servant leadership work by building towards psychological safety, openness, growth, and ensuring work is free from blockers. It starts with the Scrum Master or Agile coach leader role, but expands to the whole team. And that's a wonderful way to put it. All right, good way to start. Let's see what we've got next. Your team are about to proceed with the development of a new product for the organization you work in. Depending on the product, stakeholders, risk appetite, need for value, and more, the life cycle or way of work will change. Which of the below represents an incremental life cycle approach? And if you've watched any of these videos, we will know that increments are our features that we're developing and releasing over time. So basically, let's see which one we've got here. It provides unfinished deliverables. No, that's not true, because we want finished deliverables. So they have to be complete in themselves. Usable parts. It provides value in one release. No, also no, because we want multiple releases, they're multiple features. It provides multiple finished deliverables that the customer can use immediately. Yes, that's definitely looking good for that one. It provides a way for the team to do less with more by releasing only a small feature. No, not that one either. So I think the best answer here, because we're delivering in features or usable pieces that the customer can use, let's go with answer C. Answer C. An incremental project lifecycle or way of work delivers small increments that a customer can use immediately, gain value from, and provide feedback on. All right, great stuff, guys. We are getting through the questions. Well done. You're working with your Agile team to size story cards and place them in upcoming iterations. You notice that the points allocated to the story cards are getting bigger and bigger with each release. Why might this be happening? Oh, this is a good one. Okay, the product owner keeps adding scope to the project. No, because we will prioritize that, or the product owner will prioritize that. Maybe something, if we've got a backlog here, maybe something will need to drop off. Or maybe we want to bring something in, but something else has to come out. So that's why we prioritize well. Let's see what else we've got. Technical debt is being built on from previous releases. That's very promising. So if we're just simply getting items developed quickly without looking at the overall solution, maybe we're building on technical debt. So we're doing hacky solutions that require us to do more work in the future to fix up those quick solutions. So I think that's where we could be getting bigger and bigger story cards or points on our cards. Team members are not working their full allotted hours. That's not really something that we need to monitor. We should be adjusting on the fly for our iteration. And that won't affect the actual story points themselves. So that's a fixed amount, and then the effort that we take is different to that. Team members are working too hard and being burnt out. That's valid as well. We don't want our team members to be working too hard and burning out. We want a consistent pace of work, a flow of work. But that doesn't relate to the story points either. So I think for our purposes, let's go with answer B. Answer B. Agile accommodates for changing scope and should find a regular rhythm of velocity, ruling out A and D. The best answer is technical debt, where code may be rushed to production without being simplified or refactored. With each subsequent release, it creates more and more work to build on around this disorganized code. And that's a really good way to put it. So that's why we need to regularly refactor, and we can build in slack into our sprint. So maybe we put a card with, say, 5 points on it, maybe, and we say that's a card for refactoring, or refactoring some of the code, or streamlining some of the code. And then if something really high priority comes up, then we can take that card out and put the high priority card in. But that's building in Slack, and that Slack helps us refactor the code if we need to over time. So that's a way that we can do that within our iterations and within our team. All right, that's really great. Well done, guys. Let's see what the next question is. The project sponsor of your Agile team is quite familiar with Lean and Agile terms and methods. She's asked you for the average cycle time and the average lead time for the project so far. What will you give her? Okay, the average time for team leave and team attendance. No, that's not it. That's just what they are, team leave and team attendance. Time to complete stand-ups and time to complete retrospectives. No, not necessarily. For lead time and cycle time, we're talking about the work usually. So let's see. The average time to complete story cards and the time to complete features. That looks very promising. Let's see what the last one is. The average team downtime and the average time to complete releases. Okay, out of all of these, I like answer C the best, and here's why. Cycle time and lead time. Cycle time is the time for smaller increments, basically. So that would be our story cards. And lead time is usually the lead time for something overall. And so the lead time would be an overall feature, for example. So there's our lead time, our cycle time, and our lead time. So because of that, let's try answer C. There it is. Cycle time is the time for shorter tasks, most often story cards in an Agile environment. These story cards all combine to make up a feature, and lead time measures that time to complete a feature from beginning to end. So that's a very good thing to know, and that's one of our lean terms that you may come across as well, even in your career, just as you go through your career in project management. All right, well done, guys. We're getting through it. You're going over the velocity of your Agile team, and notice it has increased over the past 2 iterations. What might be the reason for this? The productivity of one team member has increased. That's quite promising. The team no longer tests each card. No, definitely not that. We still want to test each card, of course. The team estimated the story cards more accurately. I don't think that will impact the velocity increasing, although it might have an impact on it, but not directly. The product owner removed some features from the backlog of work. That won't impact our velocity increasing either. That's just the work. So velocity is how much we're completing each sprint. So I think potentially if one team member increases their productivity, then that will lift up the whole team and the whole team's velocity as well. So let's go with answer A. Answer A. Velocity and throughput are similar concepts. Typically, velocity is the work completed by the entire team. But obviously, the team is made up of people, and if one person's velocity, one team member's productivity increases, then that will affect everyone. All right, well done, guys. Doing great. Okay, you're an Agile project manager working with your Agile team and talking through the defects raised on the project so far. To get a more accurate view of effort per card, you ask the quality tester to begin tracking the defect cycle time. What will they report back on? Okay, and now we know cycle time and lead time as well. So cycle time for a defect might be the time from start to completion of that defect, so to the time that we fix it. So let's have a look and see what we've got. How many defects were discovered? No. How long it took to fix a defect from the time it was found to the time it was fixed? That looks very promising. I like that one. How many cycles it takes to raise a defect? No, not that one. That's not necessarily the right words. How many cycles? No one really knows what that means. The number of features in the backlog that have experienced defects. That's just counting the number of defects. So it's not that one either. For a cycle time, let's go with answer B. There it is. Cycle time is the measure of time for a smaller increment, often a story card from start to finish, but it could be for our defect or our bug as well. So that's a really, really good thing to know. Yeah, and that was well done. Well done, guys. Let's go on to the next question. You are checking in with the quality tester in your Agile team, and they advise you that there are a number of escaped defects in the most recently completed feature. What are they referring to? Escaped defects. These are ones that get away from us. They have escaped. But also, when they escape from us as the development team, where do they go? They make it into production, so into the live environment or into the working customer environment. So that's probably what we're talking about here. Let's see what information we've got. A feature that was not completed by the end of the iteration? No, this is more about defects. Code that needs to be refactored? That's more about refactoring. Defects that have made it through testing and quality assurance. Yes, probably that one. And they will most likely make it into the customer's hands, which is what we don't want. Lastly, team members who did not attend the daily stand-up. No, it's not that one either. That's more about our team members. So for defects and for escaped defects, making it into our customer's hands, let's go with answer C. There it is. Defects that make it through testing and release are called escaped defects. And the cost and risk increases for these defects the closer they are to the live environment. If our customers are experiencing these defects, then that could have a huge potential cost, as our customers may not come back, or they may experience difficulties, or there might be risk or security, or IT security risks there as well, if something is not developed in the way that they needed it. So that's quite important. But these are the most expensive type of defects to fix. All right, well done, guys. Last two questions. Agile approaches emphasize servant leadership to empower teams. Servant leadership is the practice of leading through service to the team, understanding and addressing the needs and development of the team members to enable the highest performance possible. Servant leaders approach project work in this order. Surely it has to be people first, but let's see what we've got. Oh, purpose. That's also good. Purpose, people, and process. That's actually quite good. So servant leadership, as you know, people, it centers around people, but we also want to start with why. So from the classic book, Simon Sinek, Start With Why. That's a great way to help motivate and give a vision for our team. But also then, how do we pull that off? So maybe that's where the process comes into it. So I really like that one, but let's see what else we've got. People, systems, and technology. We want to be more around people, I think, and growing people. So not that one. Information, reporting, and process, similar deal there. Plant, people, and machine. And again, not really that one as well. So I think the best one that we can see here from a servant leadership perspective is answer A. There we go. A servant leader approaches work starting with the why, the purpose behind the work, and then works with growing and developing people, and finally ensures a solid process for making that work happen. And all of those three things are so important. And it's just the different levels. It's a high level vision, then it's working with the people who make up that vision and do the work, and then the process right at the very ground level. What is the day-to-day process for making that vision happen? And that is the quality of a good servant leader. All right, last question, guys. Well done. Let's see what we've got. You've been part of an Agile team for some time and working on the aspects of servant leadership to improve the results in your team. What is not one of the characteristics of a servant leader? Oh, good. I love these servant leadership questions. Really my favorite way to lead a team and to be in a team where there is solid servant leadership is just so much better as well. So coaching versus controlling? Yes, we want that. Promoting safety, yes. Psychological safety. Can people speak up without fear of being reprimanded? So this is really important. Promoting the energy and intelligence of others. Absolutely. We want to promote the energy of people so that they can come up with solutions to the problems that we need. And ensuring the team does what you say. No, not necessarily. As an Agile leader, you can facilitate discussion with the team, but the team needs to provide all of that input, and they're the experts, so we want to rely on their expertise, and that's the beauty of Agile. So let's go with the incorrect answer being answer D. Answer D. The servant leader in Agile coaches the team, promoting psychological safety and trust and the intelligence and energy of others. The approach does not include directive leadership or forcing others to do what you say. And we made it. You made it. That's 10 questions. And you're preparing in an amazing way for your PMP or your Agile Certified Practitioner exam. And these questions will really, really do you well for both of those exams or for any other Agile exam as well, because the Agile approaches are the same and the information and methods and frameworks are the same, as you'll see in the other exams as well, or even just testing your team and seeing how well everyone knows the Agile methodology. I hope you've enjoyed these questions. I've really enjoyed spending the time with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.